Hello and welcome back to another episode of Analog Review. Today I'm going to be reviewing this Hasselblad 503 CX. It's a fantastic camera and I've used it for 4 years, but I'm actually in the process of selling it, so I thought I'd give it a kind of exit interview. I love this camera, but I don't love the square format, and that's the reason I'm moving on. But true to my format, today I'm going to load a roll, shoot 12 frames, and just talk about what the camera's good at, where it excels, where it's weak. These are absolutely iconic cameras, and I'm really trying hard not to mention the moon landings, but they're cameras that everyone will recognize, and chances are, if you shoot film or you want to get into shooting film, you've seen one of these, you've seen the images they make, and they really are fantastic. You have these fancy Zeiss Hasselblad lenses, you have the iconic list of celebrities and kind of world figures shot on these cameras, and I'm setting quite a high bar for myself. What I'm going to do is, true to my format, take it somewhere local and put a roll through it, see what I can get, and share the pictures with you. I'll take the video camera along so we can see what comes up, but I'm also just going to give a shout out to another video I made. Click the card if you want to have a really deep dive into this, because I actually have a 55-minute video on the Hasselblads that goes into a lot more depth than this one will. Anyway, let's cut to me on a beach loading film. Alright, I'm just going to quickly show you how to load the camera. These A12 backs are pretty easy once you get used to them, but they can be a bit fiddly. Basically, you want to take out your insert. I'm just going to gently put that down because I don't want to scratch it. And you want to move over your film roll to the other side. I'm going to shoot a roll of Kodak Gold today, which is my new favourite film. A bit cheaper than Portrait, looks really good. So if I just open this up, I'm just going to tuck that in a pocket so there's no littering. Once you've loaded a medium format back, to be honest, it's all the same, and it's not like there's any that are particularly difficult. One interesting thing with the Hasselblad is that there is a little pressure plate adapter thing, so I'll just quickly show you how that works. Film goes in like this. Actually, that's upside down. Film goes in like that. And if you look on the back, you'll see this little silver thing, which I can release by turning the opening handle thing. Once that's underneath, it just locks down, and apparently it helps keep your film flat, which is nice. Wind this on. And as with all the backs, what I'm waiting for is for that little arrow to appear. In line with that red arrow there, an arrow will appear. I turn this one more time, and that you'll see is correctly loaded. Now, I just put it back in here, wiggle that a bit till it closes. If we do this with my dominant hand, might be easier. And that's ready to shoot. I'm going to wind it on. I see a little 1 in the window. Make sure the body's wound. And we're off. The light's pretty flat today, and with this cloud cover, it means that metering is a lot easier. I'm just going to take one ambient reading with this Iconic, which has given me a sort of 250 at f11. I'll work with that for a while. The clouds break, maybe I'll switch, but I'm going to take my first shot of the church, and that's my settings. Alright, first shot of the roll. I really like the greens in this image. This is just the old church down in Porthilly Cove, and it's quite a simple composition. It's an old-fashioned subject with an old-fashioned format, and yeah, I like the way this come out. I have to comment on the Kodak Gold here as well. Obviously you've only seen one picture. In the development process, I've seen all of the pictures, and I must say it holds up really well. It's almost indistinguishable from Portrait. Alright, I've just taken my first frame of the old church in Porthilly. Man, I love the sound this camera makes. The shutter on this is really satisfying. If you've never focused and composed with a waist level viewfinder, you really should give it a go. There is something so magical about the view you get in this little viewfinder. It does flip the world horizontally, but yeah, it's really special. Have a look through that. Here's another simple shot. I've got that jagged cliff edge with the zigzag coming down for the left third of the frame. It's a simple shot, and again, I like the way that Kodak Gold has rendered the colours. You can see across the estuary, the sandbanks, there, the little monument on the hill behind. I have made the classic 6x6 mistake of dead centering my subjects, but it seems to work out here. Met the Springer Spaniel on the walk and got him to look at the camera just for 1 second. I love the way these boats dry out at low tides and lean on their hulls. It looks like it's kind of bad for the boats, but they're absolutely fine. They're kind of designed for this purpose. But yeah, big tidal reach in this estuary, so half the boats spend half the day on the ground. Inside the viewfinders, there's a pop-up magnifying loop, and this makes it so much easier to get critical focus. I'm just taking another shot of this sailing boat, but because I'm a bit closer, I really want to put my plane of focus right on the bow. I've used that to focus, and now it's a much easier case to check that I'm going to get everything sharp. I must admit, I wasn't shooting wide open, so missing focus would have been a bit embarrassing. I think I shot these all around f8. The light was really flat, and you'll see throughout the video it doesn't really change too much. This is such a classic subject for a square composition, because the boat with its mast is sort of as tall as it is long. It makes a nice frame-filling subject. One really nice thing about this camera system is quite how modular and how interchangeable all the parts are. The classic backs for these are 6x6 backs, but you can also get 6x4/5 backs. And there are other weird formats. One of the most notable ones is actually digital backs. Hasselblad have made a couple of them now, and they actually just clip on just like the A12 and give you the option for a full kind of digital workflow. They're really overpriced, but it is interesting to see such old kit have a sort of future in digital. The viewfinders can be changed, the winders can be changed, and you can obviously swap your lens out. They have a great range from about 50mm. There's actually a fisheye that's shy of that, all the way up to 500. I just got the 80mm today, but if you're looking for it for a portrait lens, you might want to pick up the 150, or if you're looking at as a kind of for a wide angle, there's a great 50mm lens. It's worth looking at the accessories, because you can make this camera do whatever you need it to, kind of by just oh, you want to shoot eye-level portraits? Slap a prism on it. You want to shoot something that's 2 kilometers away? Slap a big lens on it. It works for most things. I would always shoot something like this over a TLR, and I feel like just being fixed in with that one 80mm lens with the roller flexes is such a limit. I think these are great. I would recommend a Hasselblad over a roller flex. This is my favourite shot from the roll. This little tender for a larger boat, which is obviously probably out at sea during the low tide. I like the colours of the hull, and then the 2 mooring buoys, and the green bank of land in the background. I think this picture will probably end up on my Instagram with a 3x4 crop applied. A nice thing about having a fully mechanical camera is that you don't need a battery. You can shoot at all shutter speeds, all aperture settings, and the clockwork nature of the camera means that it'll be repairable and usable for a much longer lifespan. I think it's reasonable to expect that these will still be able to be serviced and repaired in 30 years' time, whereas things like Mamiya RZs or Mamiya 7s, electronically controlled cameras, will have fallen by the wayside. Having something like this, which you can replace parts of without having to sacrifice the whole body, is another big plus. For example, if my back fails, the gearing is stripped, and the spacing goes, I just have to replace this one modular piece, and obviously the rest of the camera can live on. Likewise, if a lens is damaged, I replace the lens. If the viewfinder is damaged, I replace the viewfinder, but the body of the camera can live on. So the Hasselblad 500 series is famous as a portrait camera, and we were slightly lacking for subjects on the beach. We bumped into my friend Ollie, and we took this quick snap of him with the high-powered binoculars, and it's a quirky portrait. I think centering the subject on 6x6 is so classic, and it's almost something you have to try and avoid doing. But in this instance, with the binoculars and the stem they're mounted on, I think it works. If you're using a slower shutter speed, you have to be sure to hold the button down after the exposure, because the timed exposure happens in the lens, but the baffles shut when you release your finger. One advantage of the Hasselblad system is that they have leaf shutters, so you get that sync at any speed. The leaf shutter also has a bit of lower vibration, and if you have one of the Hasselblads with mirror up, you can actually release your mirror and take a sort of a shot with less chance of having camera shake or tripod wobble. It is nice, and it's an advantage of the system. Things like the Pentax 6.7 have a 1/30 of a second shutter sync, so big advantage for the Hasselblad. By this point, I was getting to the end of the roll, and I took this picture from the same vantage point where the binoculars are. So this is looking down up through the estuary of the big sandbank and the low tide. I like the way the little stream comes into the picture from the bottom left by the pink mooring buoy, and I like the way that the water kind of reflects as it goes back further and further. Just show you the unloading process as well, because you don't want to mess this up. It's actually not light safe for the time being. What you have to do is take this little lever out and wind it on. If you listen or kind of watch the motion of my hand, you'll see that after a few turns, the resistance massively drops off. So now I've got to this point, what I can do is put the little lever away, and now dark slide in, tray comes out, and you'll see my finished roll is switch sides and it's nicely rolled up, ready to be processed. One problem I have with this camera is that the square format can look pretty dated. I find myself cropping all of my shots to a 3:4 aspect ratio. If you look at my Instagram, you'll see that they're all neat little rectangles, and having the square output can be a bit distracting. Sometimes I find myself mentally switching the frame between portrait and portrait and horizontal in my mind, and I much prefer having something like a 2:3 or 3:4. You can put a 6:45 back on this, but I find that that's a bit crazy. You're forced to use a waist level viewfinder for vertical shots, and why would you get an iconic 6x6 camera and then do that to it? I don't know. I think I might be selling this just because I can't handle the squares, but if you love the squares, this is the camera to shoot them with. I hope you enjoyed the photo walk and some of the pictures, and the one thing that really blew me away was quite how good Kodak Gold looks in 120. The exposure latitude and the colors are really similar to portrait, and if you look at the price of the boxes, I think we're at about £70 for a box of portrait and £47 for a box of gold. So keep that in mind. If you like the way that the coloring and the pictures today looked, try Kodak Gold out. A lot of people have made videos about that, but I might do my own, just sort of testing it a bit more rigorously than that 1 meter reading and then shooting for the whole day thing I did. But thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned. My next video will be out either in a week or 6 months. That's the way it works on this channel. And if you want to see it, click subscribe, and here's some outro music.